Well, it's nearly coming to 11 o'clock. So what I would ask you all to do, if you don't mind, just so that we don't have background noise, I know you're all very busy and you've got, phones ringing and people coming in to ask you questions. If you wouldn't just mind muting yourself, and then if you've got some questions, please put them into the little chat box, and we can, take the questions from there. So yeah, it's 11 o'clock, so we're going to kick off. So Clio, thank you so much for joining us today. It's an absolute pleasure to have you here. I think you and I go back a long way, and we'll probably talk a little bit about that history today. But I'm just going to give you a little bit of background on Clio. I'm sure most of you know her already, but this sounds wonderful, Clio. Honestly, I'm just going to read it so I don't miss anything wonderful about you. So Clio is hospitality expert and technology guru. And Clio has decades of domestic and international experience across Ireland, Paris, Brussels, and the UK, and holding senior titles including general manager, brand manager, sales and marketing director, and CMO with international brands such as Hilton, Accor, Bewley, Gleneagle Hotel Group. And has many, many years being a training installer of global PMS systems. So brilliantly placed to talk to us today. But Cleo has always been aware and intrigued by the role technology played in assisting teams to deliver their roles in timely and efficiently manner, and in turn offering the best guidance possible. So with the soft brands, where she installed PMS systems with 50 hotels in Ireland, as country manager for Guestline. And we're here really to talk about Cleo's personal experience, and I think it's great, Cleo, that you've kind of come through all of those ranks through hospitality. And as we always say, and people who've joined these webinars with us before, it's absolutely not a sales pitch, but you're talking from a very rounded position of your experience. So we're going to discuss today how to ask better questions of our technology providers, how to engage the whole team in the conversation, in the process, implementation, and really how to ensure that budgets are well spent. And I think at this point in...
Okay, so I hadn't seen that in the...
Sorry, can I ask you just to mute yourself, please, if you don't mind? That'd be great, thank you. But I think just because there's a part in our process at the moment coming out of COVID that I think we all agree that technology is going to play a big, big part in our decision-making process moving forward. So I thought it was a really good time just to have a chat through how on earth you would start that process. And I really like that quote that interesting people ask interesting questions. And we always want to be an interesting person. So where do we even start in asking those questions? And I just asked Cleo when we were doing a run through if I could maybe put a little bit of this in context, and that is my personal experience, because I'd really love to get Cleo's take on this. And about 100 years ago, I was working quite literally for a group of hotels, and in my naivety, I could see that their technology stack needed to work. I understood that it wasn't going to future-proof the business. And I thought the hard part was actually going to be going to the board and fighting to get approval to change everything within this group of hotels. That wasn't the easiest process in the world, but I have to be honest and say that it was probably the simplest part, because once I started the process, I realized very, very quickly that I had no idea what I was doing, and that the reason I was given the job to do was that absolutely no one else wanted to do it. And I didn't know how to ask the right questions. I didn't know how to get the team involved. And the decision process was stalled and delayed. And I'm not sure I always made the right decision. And, that's me taking responsibility for that. But how do we make those first decisions? I'm going to stop talking and let you start talking now. So if you are considering purchasing any technology, what should your first steps be?
I think you need to be easy on yourself. Nobody goes to school to learn how to buy a tech stack or how to meet the needs of their hotel where the guest behavior is changing, your staff behavior is changing, the digital world is moving so fast. So in the first instance, if I was planning this, it's a team effort. While you should maybe appoint a lead project manager that organizes and coordinates the event across the project, but it is a team event and it's a very isolated place to be on your own to make all of those decisions. Um, I think what a lot of people say to me, both as a trainer and now, is that the biggest surprise they got when they changed their technology was employee engagement. And you'll get employee engagement as the big plus to this if you include everybody. So in my experience, I think planning would be a huge takeaway from today. Plan, what does success look like? What, when you have done all of this, how streamlined is your business going to be? Will you be rid of double jobbing? Will you be able to multi-skill people across the business? Because as we open up now, we're bringing certain levels of people back, but not everybody back. And we're realizing that people need to have more than one skill set. So look at all of the different jobs that are required. I really feel an input from your key people, even if you're a small property, you have somebody that runs the finance side of things. The owner might be involved in several different parts, but might have a sales and marketing voice, might have a revenue voice, might have a HR voice. So bring all those voices together. And I suppose my mother would have always said, give everyone a job. People are happier when they have a job. So if you broke down the tasks that are needed and you give everybody a little bit of a job to do and you listen to their feedback, because to be fair, they're the guys using it all of the time. What I find the most interesting when I'm out talking to hotels or meeting people is, as hoteliers, we accept bad technology, or we accept that you have to do the same thing twice, like load up availability into your PMS and load it again onto your channel. Why would you do two jobs twice? So I always think, step outside of your own business for a little minute and have a look at retail. Look how they've advanced during COVID and how they've all adapted. And look at how many hoteliers adapted to a takeaway food service. And if they had been asked to do that, they would have needed a year to plan it, but they planned it in a few weeks and got up and running. So I think, look at travel. How do consumers behave in travel? So if you start at the consumer end and see what are they willing to do, I believe the COVID-19 has probably moved the consumer's behavior on by about 10 years. So what we might have expected them to do before, they will do a lot more now. They will participate. They'll make their own booking. They might even use some technology to check themselves in. They're very happy to check their bill and check themselves out. So all of these things that we might have thought, oh no, that's only for the new, younger consumer, is now applicable to all our consumers. So my big starting point would be...
Oh dear, take some to work.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Fergus, could I ask you just, would you mind muting yourself, Fergus? Do you mind?
Oh, apologies.
You're all right, don't worry.
Thought I was. Okay, apologies.
No problem.
No worries. No worries.
Go for it.
Okay, so I think have a strategy. If you were doing a refurb, or you were building on a new wing, or you were changing a process anywhere, you would have an overarching strategy. And within that strategy, I think have a consumer voice. So what are your consumers looking for? What are they going to do? If you're looking to be a green hotel, make sure you have a green hotel voice there, because all of the new technology is super good at all of that, and there's no more printing invoices and no more wasting paper and all of that. So it really fills the green piece for you. Also, a lot of the new technology is cloud-based, so you're not paying for heating and cooling in a comms room. So again, that fits into your green voice. And have the HR voice. What do you want to get on employee engagement out of all of this? So if they're your overarching voices, and then you go and you look at each piece of software that you already have, you think, why are you saying that? But look at what you have. What's working, what's not working. You don't need to bin everything. There's probably modules that you have that are very good in their own right, and with new technology that they would plug in and work just as well. So, you know, you're going to be looking from, maybe we'd start with what PMS you're using, what channel manager, how you're managing your events business, what point of sale you're using, what CRM you're using to communicate with your guest. And there's so many on the market. I've no preference. My one preference would be for integration. If it's plugged into the PMS and it's reading your guest data in there, at least you're always sending the right message to the right client at the right time. So integration is a big part of what I would promote. If you want your key system now to integrate, if you want minibars to integrate, if you have an upselling product that you want to be able to encourage guests before arrival. So look at all of what you want and then look at what integrations are needed. And this is a strange thing to say, but park the money for a minute and decide what you want, what's absolutely desirable, what workflows you want. And then from that, I would advise that you now have worked it all out and you look at what are you in contract with, what are you paying to those contracts, so what money are you spending at the moment across all of your budgets. I have found in especially hotels that are not part of a chain, your IT could be coming out of many parts of your P&L. You could have some coming out of your marketing budget. You could have some coming out of your maintenance budget, because years ago, that's where we put hardware into the maintenance budget. You could have costs of doing business that isn't in any budget at all, like how much travel agency commission are you paying? What is your cost of doing business on your own booking website? Are you all aware of that? What are you paying for credit card charges? We never sit down and look at that as a cost. It just seems to be part of our P&L. So there's two halves to the business, to the start is agree your strategy, pull your team together, know who's responsible for what, get all of their wishes, have them participating. And the other half of your brain looks at what have we got now? What do we want to keep? How much are we paying? When is our contract over? And what is the desired guest journey and staff journey? Because staff, to find them even now is very difficult. To train and retain them is really difficult. So there is much of the equation as retaining a guest is retaining your staff. So does that give you a good starting point?
Do you know, it's really interesting, Clio, because I think that's, you know, that's part of the process that I probably did miss. And I think what a lot of people miss out is just taking a step back and going, okay, what do we have now that works? What is actually business critical? But what I've also found in the sort of 20, 30 years that I've been doing this, sometimes a hotelier will hang their hat on, you know, I really like this particular product, and then try and build everything else around it, when actually it's like the people who say, I want to buy a new house, but I love this house, but my sofa's not going to fit in, you know, we'll buy a new sofa. So it is, if the rest of the technology stack adds up and it doesn't fit with you know, product A, then maybe you have to look at the bigger picture. So I think that's quite important. I think what you said about budget is really interesting, because again, I think the budget and the wish list and the desires from your team and your customers are all tied in, but that we all know that we should never ever make a decision on price. It's like going shopping. Don't buy that top just because it's on sale, but we look at it and think, would I wear that if it was at full price? And it's the same with technology. You know, the price should never dictate. It has to be consideration, of course, but it should never dictate fully on your choice. It has to be how are your team going to use it. And I think what you're saying there about getting the whole team involved, because that is the mistake that I made. I spoke to one person in one section of the hotel that I felt was very important, and they jumped into the project alongside me. So I listened to their voice above everyone else and didn't take the time to ask the other departments. And I had come through front office, you know, rooms division, sales and revenue. So I didn't have that experience on housekeeping or bar or restaurant. So I basically forgot about those people. I'm ashamed to say I forgot about those people in the deliberation. So I think that's really interesting what you're saying there about, you know, getting the whole team involved, you know, and how important it is even to get someone in housekeeping and listen to their voice, you know.
Well, when we get to do the configuration documents where we build your property from, there is nobody in your business that knows the bedrooms better than your housekeeping team or your accommodation team. And like I always find that if you involve them, they'll find a sneaky little corner room that we've all forgotten about that might fit in an extra cot, or they know a room that has an extra noise that we might not know about, or they know the rooms that has the best Wi-Fi coverage because they're the ladies cleaning the Wi-Fi heads every day. So they know all of these things. Why wouldn't you use that information to have delivered into your PMS so that when a guest stands in front of you late on a Friday night, impromptu, with a baby in their arms, you can ask your PMS, which is the best room in the house that I can squeeze an extra cot into? That's the sort of extra bit you get when you include everybody.
Clio, the next thing I'd really like to talk about is that integration piece, because you and I know that once you start integrating, back in the old days, that's when things started to fall over. It's much, much better now. We're working to HTNG standard. We have all got open APIs that we're trying to work towards. But how do you stop? And this is maybe a very cruel question because I know this is a huge part of your role, but how do you stop a salesperson saying yes to everything? If I say, can you have rainbows and unicorns skipping over my screen at 2 o'clock in the morning, and they say yes, we can do that. How do you stop a salesperson, because I've been caught there, saying, yes, we can integrate with that system. Yes, we can do that. Yes, we can do these with your key cards or, your CRM or your booking engine. And actually you go right the way through that process and then find that something fails either through integration or through actual product usability. I need my system to do X, Y, and Z, and you sometimes get a salesperson in front of you that just says yes. How do you stop that actually happening?
Okay, I think I'll bring this back to you as a hotelier. If you were a hotelier and you were selling a wedding and you sold the wedding for 250 people and knowing that only 200 fit comfortably in that room, you're going to be sick for a year waiting on that wedding to arrive, and you're going to have all sorts of issues and all sorts of trouble with your operations team. Most guys on our side of the table selling technology have been through that sort of pain before and never want to go there again. And most companies have a system in place where pre-sales get involved, project gets involved, and the sale isn't allowed to go ahead to sell something that doesn't exist. And if it doesn't exist and it is a trial and it is new, the client is very open-minded and really aware that they're trialing something new. And I suppose I get away with murder, literally, Adrian, because most people would know me as a trainer, installer, and a hotelier. They don't really invite me as a salesperson. So they invite me more from a consultative sales point of view. And I would often say, this isn't for you. You're not going to get the results you want for this. Or they might have a genie solution they're looking for in their event side of the business. And I'm saying, well, I have a fabulous product that does that. But if you don't have somebody that is disciplined to have the work process in place and is not working 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, that will fall through. So it's not a sale as such. It's a joining together of two partners and trying to show them all of the bits that are protected for them so that they are not in the wrong. Most people would have a sales process where you will go to tender, you will invite your tender, it's all a lovely first meeting and they're getting to know you and you're getting to know them. And that's really the overview part of the product. If you like what you see and they do pricing for you and you now have all of your pricing together, stage 2 is really, let's do a deep dive. Let's bring the team back into the room. Let's set out the criteria of what they were looking for. And let's prove to them that we can do that. I find that works better in 2 half days because nobody has the attention span for a whole day to be in that environment. And we tend to say do from 2 to 5 and from 9 to 1 and break it down into bring in the revenue team. What did they want? Bring in the marketing team. What did they want? Can they slice and dice their source codes and their market segments? Do they know where they are? Can they find their top 10 customers? Can they get the reporting that they want? Does it integrate with their CRM? And this is a good thing that you made me think about when we did the run through. Anyone that I would worry about integration, I would have the 2 suppliers demo to me at the one time. No more than if you were trying to work out the photographer for your wedding and your dress. You know, you might get them involved in the choice. This is exactly the same for us. Because we're all cloud-based now and we're not big hard servers, it's very easy to say, run a reservation booking system with your point of sale in the demo and see how it works. It's very easy to have the point of sale interact with the PMS and see how that works. Or include the reputation management or the CRM, whatever pieces you're worried about, or all of them if you want, and say, well, I'm only going to be happy when I can see all of those integrating. And most of us have test rigs now where we can have all of that up and running and show you the guest experience from the booking through to the channel manager into the PMS, tokenizing the credit card. What does it look like on arrival? What does their bill look like? What if they've got an inclusive dinner? How does the POS handle that? Where is that gone now? What does it look like at end of day? What sort of reports do I get out of that? That's the minimum you should see before you sign away a 5-year, a 7-year. Look at, I'm sure everyone that's on this webinar has probably had the same PMS for 15 years. It's not something we change that frequently. So it's a big choice. And if you don't get the right partner or make the right choice, you suffer for a long time, as you personally are aware of.
Yeah, no, I agree, Clio. And I think one of the things that I didn't realize was that it was actually okay to ask those questions, because as you said right back at the start, no one sends you to school to learn how to do this. Now, I think for everyone who's registered today, you've made up a very, and again, it's not a guest line sales pitch, it is a, here's how I would start a process to look at a PMS. I think that is invaluable. If I had had that 20 years ago, I would have probably made very different decisions. So I think that's invaluable. But I think having the understanding that it's okay to say, I don't know how to do that, I don't understand that. But I would never have felt confident enough, I don't think, to ask a PMS company to bring in those other suppliers, to sit in a room and then go, show me what that conference booking looks like, show me what it looks like to put a wedding in, or show me what it looks like if I have to move guests in a room. Basic day-to-day stuff that, you know, and it's okay, you could have the best solution, but if you can't do those things that are important to you every single day, then your solution fails. So I think that's a really good piece of advice, is to make sure that whatever is important to you, that you get those examples from start to finish, and ask a PMS provider or any technology provider to actually show you that from start to finish.
I think if we achieve one thing in all of the work I've done in the last 3 years in Ireland, it's to ask the hotelier to demand, to expect better, to not accept that you have to be, you know, on premise to do something you need to do, to imagine that you've people working off site, that you have other providers coming in and out, and that you want to be able to do all of that. We're able to do it in other industries, and somehow in the hotel world, we don't fight for what's best for us. We do fight for what's best for our clients often, or the best beds, or all of those things, but we don't fight for the best working environment for ourselves. And I think that's really important. The other thing is that, again, I suppose this is where I have an advantage, is that people would have known me as a hotelier and a trainer, and they'll tell me their, let's say, the stories they might be ashamed of, that their database is a mess, that their vouchers are all over the place, that their sales ledger is out of hand, that their packages don't work. The more you tell the person, the better we can give you the solutions. So that's why I find the 2 or 3 meetings, by the time I get to the 3rd meeting, they're normally having lunch with me and telling me all their issues. And that's really when you can come back with the best solution, not one size fits all. No 2 hotels are the same. You might have the same star rating, you might have the same management structure, but you might deal with a very different client or have a different age group in your staff. So all of that is different. And the closer we get, the more we know that, I think the better we can deliver. Another place that I would say to advise is, if you ask the salesperson, what is the process? Are they involved in the project management? And what happens after the sale and the project management? Who is your account manager? If the structure of the company is that that person that sold you that big commitment is still responsible for your account, well, now who's going to sell something that they've got to mop up a mess with afterwards? They're going to make sure that it's a really ethical sale and that you've got everything that you need. I would be checking in on training and things like that. And I've often gone back to the decision maker and said, we're in trouble here. We're on day 3 of the training and we're not getting the engagement we need. I'd much rather say that then than 2 weeks after the live, they're saying my staff can't use the system.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I'm going to throw a question and maybe put you on the spot, Clio, so sorry about this, but we've talked about sort of gathering the information, understanding your technology, all of that. So I have two questions. What actually for you makes a good tender? Like, what key pieces of information do you like to see coming through if you were putting out, and I completely agree that you should put an RFP out to at least 3 providers. You know, what key pieces of information do you think should be included in that?
It's funny because I've been selling Guestline in Ireland for 3 years, and I think I've had twice been asked their real working processes. Often they get involved in the pulling in the salespeople and doing the tender, and they haven't stood back and looked at their own processes. What are they trying to improve in their own processes? So if they've worked out the guest journey and they understand those processes, what is a must-have? And then what is an acceptable and what is desirable on our roadmap? It's often easy. It's a good question to ask too is, okay, this is your technology as it sits today. What did it look like a year ago? What's new in the last year? And what have you new planned in the new year? And what's your roadmap for that? How quickly do you deliver these new things? Because, and we've said this right along, this is a long relationship you're going into. So a lot of the behavior of the partner is really important because it's what's going to grow your business. It's what's going to future-proof you. As we've seen so much change in the last few months, there's bound to be more change coming. So I like them to have asked themselves those questions and to put down those sort of information, the guest journey. What do they want to integrate with? That's really important because while we can be fabulous, we're more fabulous when we have a nice CRM attached to us, or when we have a good RMS attached, or if you attached a really basic POS, well, you know, we might just see on the room bill a food or drink. And when you're checking out on a Sunday morning and all your checkouts say, well, I never had a gin and tonic, you're in real trouble when you don't have that detail. So if they question those things that are really important to them and put that on the RFP or get us to prove, not everyone is going to do an RFP, but if they have something like a small white paper themselves and ask us to prove those processes working for them, they won't end up making a mistake. Is there something?
No, got yes.
I just got a warning that my speaker was wrong, but maybe it's not me. So I think it's everything. It's preparation. Like it's a plan. You don't run out and buy a new tech stack. You plan it. Sometimes you might have to plan it for financial reasons. So you might be saying, well, what is crucial to our business now, and what can we add later? So it's the planning. I also think the cost of ignoring is not free. You know, if you have old technology that's not working for your business, that's not delivering, that you're too dependent on OTAs and not reducing your commission because everything is a little bit imbalanced, or often it's because your team haven't been trained in what you have. The cost of ignoring that and not doing anything could be as expensive as finding a little bit of capital and doing what you need to do.
Just talking there about, you know, it is an expensive commodity. We all know that. And I think too, we've all, you know, we hear many, many times, and I've said it in many times on these webinars and in things that I write, is that as an industry, we're terrible because we work in silos. Our technology stack is usually very disparate. We're not very conjoined at all. And we all know as well, coming out of this terrible time, that we are going to have teams that are multi-skilled. But how do we protect that time, Clio? Because we're all going to have a limited amount of time now. How do we make sure that that our tech stack is actually giving our staff back that precious time? And as you know, I'm a massive advocate of, you know, revenue managers being pulled out of those dark cupboards and actually having technology to allow them to do their jobs so that they can become strategists and more commercial. But how do you make your technology stack? How do you wave that wand and give your team that precious time back to do other things?
We spent a lot of time and a lot of money talking to clients about a year ago. This was well before COVID. And we've yet to meet a hotelier that went into the business because they love technology. You know, I've never met one of them yet. So most people were driven into our business because they love people. They love the two sides of our business that has the teamwork with their own team, and then satisfying and creating fabulous experiences for their guests. So when you're starting from that point, tech has to be easy. It has to be integrated. You're not frustrated now standing in a comms room trying to get everything to work together. With the new cloud-based products and SaaS-based products, most of the integration is much, much easier than it was before. And it's integrated and it gets on with the job, and you're not bothered by that. I remember spending one Christmas Eve when I was working in beauty hotels, trying to push my credit cards through the system because it had all got stuck. And if I'd left them, it would have expired and we wouldn't have got paid. Those days are well over. You know, there's no big comms infrastructure now on premise. Most of it is cloud-based. It's easy to use. A really good support from the company that you're going to engage with is really important. Funnily enough, in most, like yours, the same as ours, Adrienne, most people in the tech side of the hotel business are ex-hoteliers, apart from the guys that are the programmers down in the back office that we never really let out and expose to customers anyway. Most of us are hoteliers. So we understand that on a Friday evening, if something's not working, that's really crucial for you. You know, so I think picking the company that has a really good support team, a team that speak your language, that you don't have to explain in technical work what's not working. You know, you just say, I can't find my arrivals, and they know exactly what you're talking about. So there's a huge choice in choosing your partners. And, you know, hoteliers who are very much intelligent, they know someone that is selling them, or they know someone that's working with them. There's a big difference.
I think, Clio, it'd be really good to, I suppose in one way, almost go back to the beginning, because I think there's something that is fundamental through all of this process. And yes, it will kick it off the project, but it's actually the end part of the project in that, and it's talking money. So how do we, as an industry, so you're in a hotel, you're in a group of hotels, and you see that your business isn't future-proofed. You see that those bookings aren't dropping in properly, or your CRM isn't working, or your PMS isn't donkey and it's not, you know, delivering everything. How do you go to your board? How do you go to your management team and say, I need the budget for this? How do you get that budget up front and center of your decision making? Because I love that quote that you said, that cost of ignoring, and I think that's a brilliant quote, and I am going to reuse it, Clio. I'm going to steal that. But as hoteliers, we're used to spending money on curtains and carpet and a new kitchen, you know, a new microwave or new oven or whatever. But if you ask a lot of hoteliers, not all of them, but if you ask hoteliers to spend on tech, they sometimes see it as a cost of the bottom, rather than actually, if I don't spend that, this is what I'm going to lose on the top line. So how do you persuade the teams, the senior teams, to sit round and take your place at the head of the table and say, this is what I need and this is what it's going to do to the business? How do you get it that far?
So that was the drive that made me create the checklist, because I was thinking, you know, everyone's going to be back in their hotels trying to make their money go as far as they possibly can. They've had such a short season and they're heading into winter before we've time to think about it. So I thought, how would I help them? So the checklist really was to give people a starting point, but also to help them create a business plan. There's very few environments where you can just go into the owner and say, I need this, and he says, yes, run along, you can have it. So they're very precious environments. The real environment is where all of the HODs or the general manager or whatever the deal is will all be doing their budget processing and all doing their planning and all looking for access to the same 20K or 30K that's there to be spent. And there'll be somebody advocating for the new carpet in the ballroom, and there'll be someone wanting new technology, and there'll be someone wanting new beds. That's the world of today. So in any business case, I think it's to really do your homework, do your prep, have your pricing. I'm sure if we asked the audience and we said, well, what do you think it would cost to implement some new technology? They've never done it. They've no idea of the costings. Most of us have inherited the system that is there. And most of us aren't even aware of the monthly payments that we're making every month for 8 or 9 things across your business that you're using. I met a guy the other day, which was really funny. He's in 4 big branded properties in Dublin, and he sells a piece of technology for maintenance. And the IT guy rang him from the group and said, I didn't even know you were in 4 of my hotels. And I only found out about you when they wanted to put their COVID behavior on the screen in the lobby. And he said, yeah, I got in under the radar of the IT team because it was a monthly payment and nobody had to get permission for that. So I'm sure the first place to start is your P&L. Have a look at everything you're paying out. Have a look at all of the products that you're using. They will be in different places across your budget. Put that together and you will see exactly how much you're spending monthly. That's the first start. I think if we have a PMS on our property that we bought 7 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, you probably paid a big lump of money up front for that, and then you're paying a small monthly. And most of the products on the market today are SaaS based, so you're paying a room per month fee, or you can pay a little bit of capex and then pay a less per room per month fee. And with COVID, many people are rejuggling how they're charging this out and offering different methods of payment, delayed payment, or you can finance it. So you have to get all of that ready so that when you go into the board, you have credibility. You've done your research. You know the product you're looking for. You know what you're paying. You can nearly draw, I'm great for a visual board. So if you started with the visual board of the guest having a fabulous experience, happy staff and good staff retention, then you could work back and say how you're going to achieve that. It really is a project, a start, middle and end project. And the most important piece at the end is, did it work? Do you have everything you want, or are you still tweaking it till you get it right? Many hotels would say to me, they had an uplift in average room rate. They had an uplift in occupancy. They had better employee engagement. They had better retention. And they can't put it down to one thing. What I put it down to is everybody working together with a clear outcome. And then everybody works better. It's delighted. I'm not saying in any case, whichever provider you pick, that you're not going to have stumbling blocks. But again, we'll refer to it as a marriage. It's not a first date, it's a marriage. You're going to work through that marriage. 2 good partners together will work through any issues that you have, any misunderstandings. Let's imagine the interface that you thought was going to be fabulous has some report that you're missing or something else that you want. You work through that. That's like any good partnership. And the proof of that is the outcomes afterwards. I've had many sites that 2 weeks after they went live, they probably want to kill me. But 4 weeks after they went live, they wouldn't let anyone take it away. They love it by then. So there is always that stumbling block. It's almost like if you put in a new kitchen, you're not going to do a banquet on the first night of the new kitchen. It takes time to settle. And you need to give your technology partners time to settle and work through. We find that most PMS providers might take the lead role in something like that and might work through all the interfaces for you and get it all working. But it is a partnership, and it's not that you sit back and let them deliver. You participate in that delivery all the way. You say what you're not happy with, you say what you're delighted with, and you work through the problems.
I agree. No, absolutely, Clio. And it's something, our ethos as a business is never to be referred to as a supplier. I do not want to be a supplier. We are a revenue partner, and we want that, as you say, like a marriage. We want to partner someone through, great training and support. And you're exactly the same. So I totally understand that. So you've got your budget approved, you've understood what your guest needs are, you've understood potentially what your team are looking for. How do you actually make sure that your PMS provider is future-proofed? You've talked a little bit about it, but that for me is very key. How do you make sure that you're making the right decision, not just for today, but for the next 5 or 10 years? Because we're not going to spend this money up front again.
So again, we'll stick to the marriage story. So if you were marrying a nice farmer, you might want to make sure that he's future-proofed and that he has good road frontage. So you look at it the same way. Who owns the company? Have they been around for a long time? Are they financially stable? Now, if you're picking a supplier for the kitchen, you mightn't have to worry about that so much. But for this sort of partnership, you really have to make sure they're going to be around for a long time. Like, businesses have suffered terribly in COVID-19. So if there was another crisis like that, would the partner you're looking at survive? will they still be there? Will they be still able to support your business? So it's no harm to ask them their business model. Like, you know, who are their board of directors? How long have they been around? I'd often have one of my directors included if I was doing a, you know, a big presentation and people want to see more. Or I like them to meet more of the company. I like them to have had an interaction with support, or to have met the project manager, so that they know that my word is my bond, but they also know that I'm backed up by a fabulous team who have the same values as me. So the financial backing of the company, how long have they been around? Are they future-proof themselves? Because otherwise they can't future-proof your technology. A big part of what I like to understand is, what's their roadmap? What have they brought out in the last year? What are they working on? How do new processes get through the roadmap? If, for example, there's a new chip and pin rule that comes out, are they ready for that? If they get that, does everybody get that free? So are upgrades included? You never really want to be left on an old version of software ever again. That was behavior of the 90s. None of us want to be there. We don't want to be on a server-based product that actually, when you go to upgrade it, you might have to change your hardware as well. So you have two costs. So you really need to get all of that bit right. I think for me is, how do they treat their customers? Do they treat their customers the way you treat your customers? So now you've got the same business ethos, and then you can do business.
No, I completely agree. And I thought we probably, for those that don't know me, I think we should probably step away from marriage, because I'm very fundamentally divorced. So that didn't work for me. But, you know, we'll stick with partnership, not necessarily marriage.
Well, I just think you're in it for the long haul, so you need to know what's ahead of it.
I suppose, Clio, we normally wrap this up at about sort of 45 minutes or so. And guys, honestly, if anyone would like to put any questions to Clio, personally, go ahead. There's a small group of us, so feel free to do that, or put it in the chat box if you don't want to speak out. But we always leave these interviews and webinars, whatever, Clio, with, you know, kind of takeaways, because, you know, again, what our ethos is through starting these webinars would be, tell us a little bit, impart your knowledge. You are an expert in what you do, but make sure that anyone who takes the time to join, and we thank everyone who has, actually feels that they're leaving with something. Now, again, they will get this fantastic checklist that you've done, but, you know, if you had sort of 5 tips or something that you would like to leave us all with today, have you got some like little words of wisdom or tidbits that you can
I think planning. Looking at your project as a whole, looking at the time you're going to make your decision, get your finance, work out your holiday plan, make sure that your key people aren't away, and then decide when you're going to do it. So no different to building a new kitchen in your business or opening a new ballroom, you'd have a plan. Don't just do this willy-nilly. Get your plan. The checklist will really help you with the planning. I've tried to be as neutral as possible on the checklist so that it applies to small properties, big properties, group properties, but it should apply to everybody. It's a really, you know, tidy little checklist. So start your planning process. Engage your team, because the employee engagement is just phenomenal when people are being asked for their opinion and get what they want. That really helps, because, like I say, there'll be a few tough days 2 weeks after you go live when everyone's really tired and they've made an effort, and they'll think, this is the first time the company have asked my opinion, invested in me, and had me trained and up to date. That's really worth it. So I couldn't underestimate the value of engaging the team, giving them a voice. That's really important. Test your choice. Don't take the salesperson's word for it. Test it. Get them to prove your work processes. Maybe go and see a client that is like you, that is the same size as you, and similar management structure, because there would be no point in going and seeing a big brand if you're a small independent property. You might not have the same work processes. Talk to people that have been through the process, and there are pros and cons, and make sure you don't fall for their cons. And that's really worth it. I would really think testing it and getting references. Speak to a few hoteliers. Hoteliers can be quite lonely because they don't have an advisory board telling them what to do, or they don't go and ask those questions. So talk to other hoteliers like yourself with a team like yours, with maybe the same market mix, trying to attract the same people, you know, and let your guard down. Tell them a few of your home truths, they'll tell you a few of theirs. So you can get a really good neutral, you know, or someone that tells you that experience. I would say do not put off the cost of ignoring, you know. I had one site that went live with us about 2 years ago, and when I went back to see them about 2 weeks after it had all settled down, the housekeeping manager or accommodation manager accosted me in the stairways and said, "We are just too busy." I wasn't expecting to be this busy. So I said, "Oh my God, that is the best thing I could ever hear." And they had worried about maybe not doing it right then and leaving it. They did it in March, which meant they were that busy for their whole season, and they had their return on investment by the time they got to September. You know, if you've got a lift in your average room rate, if you're selling free time availability, if your occupancy is better, if you reduce your OTA commission, you have to get your investment returned very quickly. So by not doing anything, you have those issues. By doing this and taking the plunge, you can get your your return on investment very quickly. So that would be a really good one to look at. And it helps to, when you're speaking to your board or you're trying to get the budget over the line, to just say, you know, we were already spending X. We're now going to be spending Y, but we have the system that we need that will give us our return. So it's for the cost of ignoring. I think there will be no better offers available than right now in the marketplace. All of the technology companies. Are you okay?
Yes, go ahead. Yeah.
I keep getting this message that my speaker isn't working, but sure, listen, I'll forget about it. I don't think there'll be a better time in the marketplace. It's a bit like 1999 going into the millennium when we all changed our technology. I really think there'll be great pricing, great ways of paying. Technology will be making offers. It's a really good time to have the stuff you didn't have before, even if you're only adding some new stuff to your tech stack that you've got now. If you were looking at reputation management or CRMs or RMSs, there's loads of lovely offers right now, so make the most of those. And my last little bit is download the checklist, and you're going to pop out the link for the checklist with the recording. So download the checklist, share the checklist with your team. You know, it's a great checklist that whether you're doing it for this time of the year for your budget or you're doing it after Christmas, it's not going to go out of date. It's a checklist that, you know, people have used time and time again.
Yeah. Well, Claire, we have the wonderful Altaf has a question for you.
Oh, I knew it. I knew it. As soon as I saw him, I knew it.
How did you do that now? Okay.
Because you're the boldest, Altaf.
I know. Tell me, Clio. Okay, I think you've painted a really ideal world situation there, that, you know, all systems marry together, they work together, and we want to work smart. We don't want to work hard, and all that stuff. There's a lot of moving components there which need integration, and there's a lot of companies, partners or auxiliary partners that need to integrate with a PMS system. So how does that work, Clio? Because we work with trainees or we work with PAC IT, and then what we found, we tended to be few people and all that stuff. And then when we go and talk to these people, we have a requirement, as you said, you know, a document filled that what we want for technology to work for us. But then when we start talking to PMS people or we start talking to auxiliary people, we don't work with them and we don't work with them. So the compromises start to happen. And then we get deviated from what we want from the system and start making compromises and end up with a product that we're really not happy with. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And it's disappointing that we want, as you said, you know, people to do their jobs so they can get on with their jobs rather than double jobbing and getting involved into you know, we are in 2020, and I think system and technologies should work for us rather than we adapting to the technology and systems. And the second part of that question is, how does, okay, when we talk about PMS, we always think rooms and room management and the floor above us or floor down us or whatever. We never think of F&B. So how does then the auxiliary partners kick in, and how do they then help us to materialize and increase our revenue there? I have 4 people in this conference, actually, in this webinar from our group. So I just want to see how that will help us to generate more revenue overall, from not only from rooms, from bar and restaurant. So how those auxiliary partners come together and help and work and automate themselves.
Okay, I'll answer the first piece first, Altaf, and then we'll talk about the second piece. So, you know, up until very recently, having an interface would have been my worst nightmare if someone said to me, I have a product and I want to interface it. So if I look back at my Softbrands experience, I've cried if someone said something that they wanted to interface. When I joined Guestline, it was a different world for me because it's the world of open API that Adrian refers to. And that allows us within a very quick process to bring on a new interface. So I would use language very often when there are two willing partners, anything can be achieved. So if you have two willing partners with the open API, they take the open API is literally a public source that gives them access to where do we share the guest's name, where do we post the bill, all of the different pieces of where do we share the data. With access to that open API, I am testament in Ireland to about 30 interfaces that have been written for the Irish market, and most of them are done in less than 12 weeks. The process normally is the PMS provides the open API, the second partner does the work, and we both do the testing. And I could list off all of the ones that I've had to do here so that the clients weren't compromised with their choices. We firmly believe in best of breed. Why would you have one size fits all? You should be allowed to pick the reputation management that works for you, the CRM that works for you, the PMS that works for you. If you need RMS to sit on top of that, that works for you. All of that should be your choice. And we as providers should be open to integration. It wasn't like that before, Altaf, and I totally understand why you would find it hard to trust that it is like that. But it is like that now because we all want to do business well. None of us want to snooker people or create frustrations or make them make choices that they don't want. That doesn't work very well because like that you end up with someone like you who's a disgruntled hotelier and who's not going to speak well about the product. You're going to say this product isn't letting me do my business. I've made too many compromises and I still spent all the money. So that's not the way it should be. You know, I have loads of testimonials. In fact, Adrian is an interface that we've created in exactly that process. And she's done with many, many providers and knows the process and knows the pain of the process or the ease of the process. So absolutely can stand hand and glove in that we can and do that all of the time. And there's for us, I think Guestline was a small company created by two people. So we have that thinking. We want to also help the small guy that might be starting out that has just made something that wants to interface with us. And once it provides a business case and we have a client that wants it, I have never been told I can't have an interface. Never for any client to date. So the win-win of that is two willing partners can achieve anything. So once you have two willing partners and a business case, I have living success of that all the way over the last 3 years. The other piece then is, to be fair, I experienced a fair bit of it in COVID where hoteliers went off and found something on the internet that they wanted and they never checked, did it interface, what was going to happen, how quickly could they have it. So we are, again, partners. Talk to the people you're working with and get their advice. Don't pick something, let's say, that's built in Brazil and has no presence in Ireland. Build, you know, look around and work with partners that we're all working with. For driving your food and beverage business and your event business, and let's imagine you have a retail business attached and you've all of these businesses and you want to drive them. The secret to this is one CRM. If you have your clients in 4 or 5 different databases with all sorts of different communications going to them, you know, you're going to get yourselves into trouble. So thank the Lord for GDPR. It made us all think about that and do things properly. One overriding CRM that does your social, that puts your messages up on your website, that communicates on your e-signs, and that is embedded into your property management system so that you're not sending out somebody an offer that they've already booked over that period and now, you know, you're causing havoc. An integrated CRM overarches all of your different business needs and will definitely improve your upselling. That's probably one of the most important tools that you choose when you're doing something like this, because while the PMS is the workhorse, the CRM, a really good CRM, is communicating retaining your guests, creating what I would call lifetime guests. You're well used to me using that language. You know, you don't want to be acquiring new guests all of the time and paying OTA commission. You want to acquire a guest and create a lifetime relationship with them. And if you don't have a good CRM doing that, somebody else is doing it for you, like bookings.com is speaking to them rather than you're speaking to them. So I would think core technology with good open API, sitting on top of that, a really good CRM that's managing the relationship. That would be the basic architecture that I would drive. Your point of sale has to be a good partner with your PMS. While there's loads out there that you can plug in, there's really difference in integration. Years ago, we were delighted if we got a room charge and thought, you know, we should clap that worked. Nowadays, we want absolute integration. We want to understand access to the guest profile. We want to be able to see the reputation management piece on there. We want to be able to see exactly down to whether they had an extra portion of chips on the docket. We don't want to see a docket that just says food, €99. We want to see all the detail. So that's part of your checklist now when you're getting ready. What is a must? And don't go looking for what you have. That's not working. Go looking for better. With each layer, you want better. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. Thanks, Emil, for that. Again, I know OTA has been thrown into the mix now. I probably will go to Adrian on that. Is that my question is, okay, the demand is in there, Clio and Adrian, okay, and we are sitting in Limerick. So I have to depend on OTA. I can't get that reach with my net affinity, or I cannot get that reach by my own website. So, you know, so I am just using them because I have to, because I will not get that reach. And the other part of to Clio is, Clio, how does that help my F&B operation? Sorry.
I'll maybe take the first part, Alta, because you know that I love the OTA so much.
We know that, yeah.
I always start by saying, of course, they have their place, but I think there's two things here. I think if we're all understanding that, I'm even scared to say the word, but staycation is going to be what we're focusing on for the moment, we have to understand that most of our guests who are going to stay with us on staycation already know us. So we should have a much better opportunity right now to get our business direct rather than having to put out to booking.com or Expedia or the others, because we're not getting those international travelers. We're not getting those international searches. We're getting people that are within a 4-hour drive of your hotel with your destination that will know you. So we have this unique opportunity at the moment that we should be able to get a lot of our business direct. So I suppose that I would start by saying, make sure that you have great availability online. You have fantastic, innovative, exciting packages that are going to attract people. Make sure that your content and your photography on your website is great. If someone goes to your website and has such a bad experience that they go to booking.com or Expedia, shame on you. You know, this is, and I don't mean you personally, obviously, but this is the time where we need to get all the ducks in a row, that we have got great content, great photography, fantastic packages, that we're talking about what people can do when they come to our hotel. So whether it is cycling or go to see local attractions or beaches or castles or just getting outside for a picnic or whatever it is, people are dying to get outside. They want to do stuff. I'm a hiker. I want to go somewhere and spend 12 hours a day walking in a mountain. And that's my dream. So tell me that I can come to your hotel, that I'm going to get a great breakfast, potentially a picnic for me to take out with me, and I can go out all day, and then you don't have to worry about me being in your property. There's hundreds of thousands of people just like me wanting to do very different things. So make sure that you have your booking engine perfect. And I honestly, I do a sweep of booking engines all of the time. The spelling mistakes, stop using acronyms, that 2BB, 1D, forget it. You have to change your rate titles, change your content, make sure that you are way ahead of the game. But also, whoever's doing your PPC and your SEO, make sure that you are really tight with them, because you have to ask them questions about demographics. what kind of guests do you want? You know, are they over 45? Are they under 25? Are they families? Are they older people? You know, who are they? And get them to target those people within a 4-hour drive of your hotel. And any budget that you're doing on PPC and SEO, you have to use very, very wisely. And trust me, there isn't a marketing agency out there who's not going to take an easy route if you allow them to take an easy route. So ask about site extensions, ask about taglines, ask you know, what search terms they're going to use, what the demographics are. You tell them the customer that you want, and then task them to go and get it. And they should be returning high returns directly for you. And I spoke to the wonderful Ina Cremens a couple of weeks ago, and her portfolio of hotels, my portfolio of hotels, our portfolio of hotels are doing phenomenally well on direct bookings. But you cannot expect that old, you know, if I build it, they will come. You have to have all your ducks in a row. And I'm not saying don't use the OTAs. Of course, you're going to have to use the OTAs, but you have different access points, different points of your business coming into the market right now. So maximize those and maximize staying local. I will stop talking. Cleo, sorry, you had a point.
No, what I would add to that then, Altaf, it's a good CRM. It's your database. You have a huge amount of existing clients that you need to bring back. So it's understanding your database, having access in the segments to who you're trying to attract now. You're in a very noisy market, so you have to stand out. You bring them back through your CRM, you give the good offers, and then once you have them booked, you use your technology to do pre-arrival emails. Most people are expecting that now anyway, because they want to know the rules and regulations and how they do the check-in process. Use that pre-arrival to get them to book their breakfast time and book their dinner time. If anything, with the COVID-19, you're going to be guaranteed to get your food and beverage client, because they're going to want to be booked. They're not going out in the street on spec. So get them booked in, get that all tidied up. Make sure that you know a little about them, so that if you have it in their profile that I'm a Chablis drinker or I'm a gin drinker, that you're targeting me with that on the food and beverage side. It's taking the big hotel back down into small and really understanding the wants and needs of your customer. And we all love to be recognized. We all love to get what we want when we check in, or to be told, we know you had this the last time, would you like it again? All of that, and that brings the human element in to work tightly with what the CRM is doing, and then all of a sudden you've got your lifetime customers. There's nothing better than that. I certainly believe in Ireland, if you got a nice couple that went away on a couple of breaks a year, you look after them, you get those breaks, because they're naturally lazy. They're not going to look for somewhere else if they're getting the right treatment from you. So it's really a matter of bringing your customer care and your technology and your plan all in together. It's funny because we're talking about the OTAs, but with no travel coming into the country right now, your own website should be doing better than the OTAs. You should be able to get your message out there. And people now also want to speak to the owner of the product, the deliverer of the product, because they want to see safety messages and that you've done all of your work. So, there would be nothing wrong with having a video on your website with your team saying, we've done it, we're ready, we can't wait to see you. All of that sort of stuff is, you want to hear it from the owner. I don't want to take Booking.com's word that you've done your job. We want to really get that reassurance. So direct websites should be up, definitely.
Yeah. Guys, I'm going to have to stop it there because we've kind of gone over our time. And as usual, we could speak to Clio for hours and hours and hours, and we could speak to Altaf for hours and hours and hours. So I just want to say thank you so much. I have all of your email addresses because of you registering. So I'm going to shoot Clio's checklist out to you all later on today. We will get this. I'm going to do another call out because she loves it. I'm going to do a call out to my daughter, who edits these videos down for us, and it will be on YouTube probably within the next 24 hours, if I can drag her kicking and screaming out of her bed at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, but that's what happens when you're that age. But I just want to say a massive thank you to Clio, to the whole guest line team who spent a lot of time marketing this. I really appreciate it. It's been lovely to have you all along, and lovely to see so many familiar faces, and I'll keep you posted with the next one, if that's okay, guys.
Thank you, Adrienne. Thank you for having me. It was fabulous. Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks, guys. Talk to you soon.
Thank you.